I made a video a while back and I called it Bill's Body Scan, and I can't find it anywhere, but Rudy asked me, if I had access, and I was looking for it. It's got to be out there somewhere. I just figured I'd do it again, but essentially this is what I do after I get the history and all that other stuff that we normally do from somebody. So somebody could have back pain, shoulder pain, neck pain, and I'm going to track all of that stuff, but the first thing I'm going to do is look at them from the ankles all the way up. So after I get all that information from them, I just tell them to sit, and they're usually sitting in a chair just like I am, straight ahead from me, and I just tell them, I said, I'm going to be your mirror, you copy what I do, and I'm not going to do anything complicated. So then I just have them bring the toes up like this, and then I say, what do you feel? And you could get any number of answers from nothing, which that's what you want, but I've got people that have back pain and feel it all the way up in the hip and the back, and I don't discount that. That's what they feel. I want to get rid of that feeling. Next thing I do is tell them, raise your heels up. Same question, what do you feel? Tightness, whatever, but again, they might feel it somewhere else. Typically you might get somebody with a knee problem, they might feel that in the knee. And then the next thing I do is just tell them to straighten their knees. And I don't care if they're sitting up straight, I don't care if they're sitting back here. All I care about is if they're comfortable, and I just ask them what that feels like. And they could feel that in the back or the hip and everything like that. And what if it's a back problem, then I'm going to, intentionally want to make sure that that feels okay. Some people, if they have, I'm sure everybody knows what a straight leg raise test is, but then, some people don't realize there's something called a well straight leg raise as well. That's all supine. But then there's a seated straight leg raise, which is essentially this, or knee extension. Sometimes people will do this. But again, I'm just doing this. If somebody doesn't really have a whole lot of symptoms going on, that'll be fine. But again, if they do this and say, I feel tightness behind here, because that's your typical thing, they'll feel some tightness behind there. I'll tell them I want to get rid of that, because I want everything to move comfortably. So now I've gone from the knees down, so now I tell them to bring the knee up like this, and now I'm looking at the hip. Ask them what they feel, whether it's in the hip, or what they call the hip, or it could be the groin, what I would call the hip, low back, anything like that. And if one's easier than the other, I want to get rid of that. So I'm writing all this stuff down as they go. Then I tell them to stand up. So now I know what they look like when they stand up. If I haven't seen them out in the hall, then I say just bend forward. But then I stop them right then. I say, don't try to touch your toes. I don't care if you can touch your toes. What I'm looking for is how far can you bend without feeling any tension in the upper back, mid back, low back, hips, hamstrings. I want you to stop as soon as you feel any tightness or tension. And then sometimes I'll have to demonstrate it just because I'm kind of watching them, and you can kind of tell if somebody's competitive, and I'll just tell them, I say, listen, I can touch the floor, I can put my palms down, but I start feeling tension, at least right now, right about here. So I tell them, I don't want you to go through that. I want you to stop as soon as you feel some tension, because we want to see if we can make that feel better. Next thing I do is have them lean back. And again, I don't tell them to do this and crank on it. I don't give a whole lot of directions on how to bend or how to lean back, because they already have in their heads how they normally do this kind of thing. So why should I give them more directions to do that? So you have all kinds of people that ask all kinds of different questions. Well, should I do this? Should I do that? I don't care. Just bend forward. It's not rocket science, and you don't have to put all kinds of stuff on top of it. Just bend forward. Stop when it starts feeling like it's a little tense. Then they sit back down. Now, of course, I skip this because, if you look at it anatomically, L1 through L3 doesn't side bend. You get the side bending from the stuff above or the two segments below. And again, it depends anatomically on that person, but L5, S1, you're going to get a little bit of side bending, but the other ones are straight up and down, so I don't even want to waste time on that. And I don't like wasting time. So anyway, then they sit back down, then I look at the shoulders. Straight up, reach across, elbow up, reach behind, and reach back. So I've covered several different areas there. Again, same thing on the other side, up, across, up, so a little impingement test, behind and back. And then for the neck, just up, down, side, side. I don't do a side bending because, again, anatomically, those bones aren't going to be doing that. Those bones, for rotation, rotation is going to be a combination of extension and side bending. Same thing with rotation this way. But you don't have to go straight back like that, because there's not a single functional thing you do to do this. And unless your dog does that, like your dog hears something funny, or you do something like that. Or in the old days, you got your telephone like this. You used to do that. I guess that's semi-functional, but I don't do a side bend. Typically, side bends kind of bother some folks. And if somebody comes in and says, well, it bothers me to do this, first thing I'll say is, why are you doing it? But if you want to get that better, okay, my job is to get that better. So now I've already covered the entire body, and I want to get every single thing that they have a deficit in better. So the first thing I do after I got all that information is I read it back and say, this is what I'm finding today. Now, I don't say, I'm finding that you've got a meniscus problem. I'm finding you've got a potential pinched nerve. I just tell them, this is what you can't move. So we want to make that better. So let me have you sit on the end of your chair, and let's do a twist. And sometimes I'll say, which side? I don't care. Do both sides, because I want to know which side feels the easiest, the most comfortable, the most at ease to move, because everybody resonates with a certain word. I use the word easy most of the time, but then some people need to hear other different terms. And so I just have them do that. Tell them check the other side, say which one's easier. This one's easier, so I say turn to that direction, and I'll say count to 15. I have them count to 15, and I don't care if they count fast or slow. If they go really fast, then I'll slow them down. But essentially that means I can type stuff in. So then they come back and say, well, how was that? They'll say, well, that was fine, usually. Sometimes they'll give me more information. But if they say that was fine, right then I say, the key thing for you to get better quicker is comfort. So when you turn again, and we're going to do this 2 more times, when you turn again, what I'm looking for is how comfortable you are. So when you turn, if you feel tension in the neck, move your head somewhere. If you feel tension in the shoulders, let your arms drop. If you feel tension in the hips or the back, just slouch a little bit. If your legs bug you, just let them go. It doesn't matter where your legs are. So typically I'll tell them, you are just as correct doing the exercise like this as much as doing the exercise like this, as long as you're comfortable. So that process might take me 5 or 10 seconds, so they've had a rest period. So I say, okay, do it again. So then they're doing it, and then they're thinking about it, and then they're doing whatever they want to do. They come back to the front, and then I'll ask them again, how was that? That was okay. So it felt a little better if you moved a little bit? Yeah, okay. So you have to wait 5 or 10 seconds between each one of these, and we've talked about that much, so now I want you to do it again. And when you get done, we're going to recheck the other side, and it should move a little bit easier. So then they do another one and say, okay, recheck the other side. So they do, usually they'll say, that is easier. And then I'll say, well, the first rule in therapy for us is if it works, you have to do it again. So you've got to do 3 more to that easier side, because 3 over there equals 1 good one over here. So I have them repeat all that. Then they come back over here. It's usually even better. Then the first thing I'll do is just try to get them out of that chair, because they've been sitting just, well, not that long, obviously. Only a couple of minutes doing that little movement, but I'm just trying to unload them. So I'll say, all right, stand up, bend forward again. Typically they'll say, oh, it feels easier. I say, lean back. Oh, it feels easier. And even if it doesn't, that just means I'm going to come back and take a look at that. And then I look at everything that was bugging them. So if the feet bother them, I'll look at that. That bothers them, I'll look at that. Anything else that bothers them, I'm going to recheck that. And then the next thing I do, so we've only done that twice. Done this the first time, second time because it got better. Then the next thing I go to is an arm rest. Now, if the shoulders bother them, second thing I do is this. So typically the first person, and I'll do this for every single thing that walks in the door. I don't care if it's a knee, back, neck. And usually what I see is a combination of something in the neck, something in the shoulder, something in the back, something in the hips, knees. So it could be all of that stuff. And I want to track all of that. And typically the folks come in, they get out within 30 minutes. And I still got a note to write. Sometimes I can catch up with it. But typically that's it. Now, I did leave out something earlier when I said I'll do this and this. If I got an ankle person come in, I'll add 2 things. I'll add this and this. Simple as that. And all I'm looking for is, does that bother you? And then I'm going to recheck all of that stuff. So I don't know if this helps anybody. And hopefully it does. And if it doesn't, if you got questions, let me know. But this is typically my typical day, the whole day. And then I adapt things to other people. But if I was to tell you what I did as far as movements go to make somebody better, it's going to be a twist first. If that bugs them, going somewhere else. Arm raise. If they can't do that for some reason, I'm going to do this. If they can't do an arm straight because they say I feel tension here, some up here, so they do it bent. You know, simple as that. So that's what I start with. I hardly ever do a leg thing on day one. It doesn't mean I can't, but I hardly ever do it on day one. I might, like I have one lady today. Both shoulders are whacked out, neck's whacked out, low back, hip, but she wasn't responding as well on the shoulder stuff. She did, well, essentially her shoulders didn't respond as well as I would like. They both got better, but I'm shooting for a home run. I'm not shooting at third base. We did the twist first, and then, both hips are a little bit whacked out, so we tried doing this, which essentially, if you go back and look at that lumbar flexion tape, you can bring your knee up like this, you can do it passively, or you can go down like this, which could be easier for anybody. This little video got longer than I anticipated because I'm just sitting here blabbing like you were in front of me. Of course, if you were in front of me, you could probably ask more questions. But anyway, so if you do have any questions, because I'm not going to edit this at all, go ahead and throw it on the bottom there or something like that, and we'll try to go from there. So hopefully this helped you out, and sorry Rudy couldn't find it, so maybe another one. Thanks.